This Daf Yomi Yerushalmi Shevi'is. The article Ozbahad edition was supposed to be on Daf Lamed Dalet today, but we're starting from the last line Lamed Gimel Lamed Beis, which is the beginning of the new parak of Bnei Shuach, which in the Vilna is on Yud Gimel Amud Aleph, and the beginning of a new parak. And as we say every day during these difficult times, learning of Yerushalmi should be a source for Am Yisrael, especially the Yoshvei Eretz Yisrael, who all of us need a Yeshua and a Geula and a Hatzlacha in overcoming our enemies. B'no Shuach, says the Mishnah, B'no Shuach, which are white figs, Shvi'is Shniya. The Shemitah year is the second year of Shemitah, because although they bud during Shemitah, as we mentioned yesterday, the time of Chanota is the time which determines the status of the fruit. They don't fully ripen until the third year. So that's the Shevi'is, 1 year, year 1, year 2, and then you have the fruit which ripens on the tree in the third year. That is the Shevi'is. The Rabbi Yomer HaParsos, Persian dates, Shevi'is Motzoi Shevi'is. Their Shevi'is is Motzoi Shevi'is. The year after Shemitah Shem Osim L'shtei Shonim. They produce fruit after 2 years, Shemitah and Motzoi Shemitah. Almost they said Lomra B'no Shuach. The Rabbanan said back Rabbi Yomer, no, this delay only applies to B'no Shuach. The Gemara is going to explain the Machlokas. Ma B'no Shuach, what are B'no Shuach? Bituria. Bituria are white figs. Ma b'chol shonim osos achol shonim. There's new fruit bud every year on the tree, or it's a 3-year cycle. In other words, there's a delay. There's new fruit every year, but it's a delay, right? That's while it's on the fruit that was just chenet year 1 is harvestable year 3. I was just chenet year 2 is harvestable year 4. It's chenet year 3 is harvestable year 5, etc. Or do I say no? It grows. It cycles of 3-year growth. It's chenet 1 year, and then the 3rd year later is when you harvest it, and then there's another chanita after that for 3 years after that. How does it work? B'chol shana b'shana hein osos. So the Gemara says there is a new crop each and every year. So but the fruit doesn't complete itself until after 3 years on the tree. How do you know which are which, from which year they come? So there really is no clear-cut way of knowing because they're all on the tree at one time. Rabbi Yossi Omer, you tie in them a string. Each year you're trying a string for that year to know what's chenet on that year. So 3 years later, 3 years later, when you harvest it, you know which whether Shemitah or what year of Meiser. Tiny Shmuel said Tovei B'hem Kismin. You stick in them pins, toothpicks, splinters, and this you don't do it in the beginning. You do it every year. In order to determine whether this pig is ripe or not, you stick into a toothpick to see if it's ripe or not. And those which are ripe, you know that, okay, they're all from 1 year, which was 3 years ago. Those which are not ripe, you leave them on, and so on and so forth. Okay, Tanya, you learned, Ilan Shechana Kodim B'chamisha Osar B'Shvat. We're talking about Trumas and Maisis, Rosh Hashanah. The Elon is Tu B'Shvat. So a tree which budded before Tu B'Shvat, Mis'asar L'Shavar, its Maisis are from the previous year. If it's buds after the 15th day of Shvat, Mis'asar L'Haba, then the Maiser goes after the next year. So this is talking about a tree where the fruit is not harvested all one time, but rather it's harvested twice a year, and therefore we go after the Chanot and determining what year it is its year Maisos or Shemitah. I've been sure but a tree which only makes produces one crop a year, such as olives and dates and carob. even though they budded not all the fruit, some of the fruit, Kodem Lizman Hazeh before Tu B'Shvat. Nevertheless, Harei Henkel Asi Lobo, they go after the following year. And I guess it's too difficult to know the difference. So Chachamim said, just follow the subsequent year when by then all the fruit has been choined. So the idea is that if it has two crops, you can tell the first crop was before Tu B'Shvat, the second crop is after Tu B'Shvat. So there's a very easy way of telling when the Chanata was and which year of Shemitah and Meiser it is. And the Meforshim say it's because basically because Shumas Meiser is Vanazed Rabbanon, so therefore they can follow they can make the Rabbanon can define these things as works out for the Amonam the best. So the Gemara says that Amar Rabbi Yochanan Nagu b'Charuvin K'Rabbi Nechemia. The Rabbi says by Charuvin, by carob trees, the minhag ha'am is like Rabbi Nechemia. In other words, that you go after Lakita, and everything is Meiser. All the determination of Trumas and Meiser and such and Shemitah is determined by the Shas Lakita. So the Gemara says on this, the Mesa of Rishim and Lakish, asks, Kumi Rabbi Yochanan. Now, before I get there, it's important to say that Naguam Rabbi Yochanan, they even though by other fruit, meaning it's not like Rabbi Nechemia, by Charuvin, since Ruba Mina Hefker, anyway, their Meiser is just Midrabanan, because most of them grow Hefker, so therefore they were allowed to be flexible. So now, on this way, Shimon Lakish is going to ask the question, wait a minute, B'no Shuach, also we should go, if you're going to say that something where it's Goren Echad, you go after Lakita, so then B'no Shuach you should also go after Lakita and not after the Chanota. And even though the Chonig during Shemitah, you should go after Lakita, and their Shevi'is Shlem Shniya. This is their Shevi'is. I'm sorry. B'no Shuach Shevi'is Shlem Shniya. Shem also Shlosh Shani because they produce after 3 years. But Daitla, according to you, Masha also Shevi'is. Whatever they were, even though the Chonig 2 years earlier, whatever is gathered during Shemitah, should be like Shemitah. And whatever's gathered 2 years after Shemitah, it should be like 2 years after Shemitah, right? B'kiva minay, and Rebbe can accept this. So Rebbe Markan is astonished. To me, who mostly Rabbi Shimon Lakish, Rabbi Yochanan, and the Gemara doesn't say Ben Lakish, but it's the Kabbalah Lakish is down. It's things be Dover Pasha. That's Rish Lakish. Heichum mostly Rabbi Shimon Lakish, Rabbi Yochanan, and the Kabbalah Lakish puts in there the Hadat Tuvta this question, but I don't really have to put it in. But anyway, V'makabamine. How did Rabbi Yochanan accept this? There's so many differences. Yasivnei. Let him reject it and say, "Oh no, Amar Charuvin. I don't have no shuach. I'm talking about carobs. How can you not reading from no shuach? Carobs are hefker. No shuach are not. Amar minhag. I talked about a minhag. In other words, case where anyway the Shuvas and Meises are a minhag. They're not mikra din. So atamar talach. It could be case no show where it's halacha. That the Shuvas and Meises and Shemitah. Amar Rabbi Nechemia. I said according to Rabbi Nechemia, and that passes by Charuvin. But our Mishnah is talking about Rabbanon. You could ask you from Rabbanon and Rabbi Nechemia. So why didn't Rabbi Yochanan answer this way? Because Charuvin and No Shuach both have the same halacha. Why is that? Because also No Shuach, they are an inferior type of figs, and they also grow from after mostly. And therefore, the minhag by Trumas and Meiser and Shemitah, it's really from Teres Minhag, and therefore it would be appropriate to pass Rabbi Nechemia by No Shuach as well. And that's what it says. He charuvin b'no shuach, and therefore he minhag halacha. It's really, in other words, it's also minhag by b'no shuach. He Rabbi Nechemia, he rabbanon, and so also we should pass Rabbi Nechemia by b'no shuach. So therefore, he accepted from Reish Lakish that b'no shuach, because of their status, as they normally grow from hefker, they should have the same parameters as the carob trees. Tamanami. Now, this is we're going to have several different ways of learning. A different way about the case of Charuvin, how to understand it. So Tamar, I mean, Elon Shechana Karam Rosh Hashanah Olam Misas Yeshua, but really, it doesn't have to do with Lakita, the carobs. It's not because it goes after Lakita. It goes after Chanata. But the Chanata by carob trees, and evidently it should be the case by any tree which has one goer in a year. Rosh Hashanah is not Tu B'Shvat. Rosh Hashanah is Rosh Hashanah of Aleph Tishrei. So Rosh Hashanah of Aleph Tishrei is Rosh Hashanah for carob trees. So any Chanata after the previous Rosh Hashanah, even if it's before Tu B'Shvat, is all going to be the same status as a Chanata after Tu B'Shvat, because, again, we're not going by Tu B'Shvat. It's not the dividing line. The previous Rosh Hashanah is the dividing line. So any Chanata after, so really it's not going to follow Lakita, but rather we go after Chanata, but any Chanata from Rosh Hashanah Shofar, Rosh Hashanah Zeh is all the same year. And a Chanami, if you knew a fruit was Chayne before the prior Rosh Hashanah, it would have a different status. But it goes after Aleph Tishrei, not after the Tu B'Shvat. So that's he says, if it was Chanot is for a previous Rosh Hashanah, that's from the previous year. If it's after Aleph Tishrei, it's Asel Haba, then it goes after the subsequent year. Heisi Rabbi Yehuda and Bar Palia come Rabbi Yonah. So Rabbi Yehuda and Bar Palia asked for Rabbi Yonah. Okay. So Taka, what about by carobs? What about the things if they Taka Chayne before the prior Rosh Hashanah? Harein Chaytin Kodem Rosh Hashanah Shel Oilam Memis Asin L'Haba. They are Chayne before the previous Rosh Hashanah, and you have them on the tree at the same time as fruit which is Chayne after Rosh Hashanah. So how can you grab them both together? So he says, we learned previously that there's that by Charuvin, the Chanata is not when it creates a bud. Ein Chanami, the buds can come before the prior Rosh Hashanah. But by Charuvin, the Chanata is actually when they start cascading down. And that, he says, even if the budding was before the prior Rosh Hashanah, the cascading down is only after Rosh Hashanah. And all this cascading occurs in that tree, and I guess it's Mesias Charuvin, in the 1 year, May Rosh Hashanah Sha'avad Rosh Hashanah Zeh. So even though the budding, which normally is the determinative factor by the trees, happens to Rosh Hashanah, the actual Shilshulim happens after Rosh Hashanah, and therefore they're all part of the same year. So therefore, it's not, we don't have to come to Rabbi Nechemia, we don't have to come on to Lakita. Really, we go after Chanata, but we go. Chanata is determined by trees that have one crop a year by Rosh Hashanah, through Rosh Hashanah, and I believe brings us to the top of Lamed Hey Amud Aleph, and therefore we can stop here. Yeah, but I have different sheetas tomorrow about this.